The difference between your expectation and your reality very much is determinant of how we feel about our lives. If you want to go from where you are to where you want to be, it's going to cause you to leave friends behind. You're not going to get the new group. This bit in the middle, this lonely chapter, will cause you to be riddled with self-doubt, and you won't even know that there's going to be glory on the other side of it.
One thing straight off the bat that everybody needs to realize is that if you are succeeding in a life that you don't enjoy, think about how much more successful you would be in a life that you do enjoy. 85% of Americans are either actively disengaged or not engaged with their work, right? Think about how much better those, and tons of them are successful. Tons of them are really, they're killers, they'd be great at their job, they're doing sales, they're doing architecture, doing whatever they're doing. Think about how much better they would be if they were actively engaged. If you are just ticking over and everything feels pretty comfortable, it's probably a warning sign that you need to make a change somewhere, because if you see discomfort as a signal that growth is happening, that's something that you should lean into. It's my belief that fear is a much more powerful driver than desire, that most people are running away from things that they don't want as opposed to running toward things that they do.
One of the really interesting realizations is that a lot of the things that people want to get easily are only valuable because they're not attainable with ease.
The amount of discomfort that you need to go through to become someone of note in any field, whether it be sports or academia or art or creativity or poetry or like pickleball, whatever it is, right? It requires such a massive activation energy that most people have more pain than they do love in life. And pain is a significantly more potent fuel. I think that that's what gets people over the line. Now, the people that have longevity, I think actually pivot. I think that they use what they have in the beginning, which is often, you know, a mean parent, bullies in school, being an outcast, not feeling good enough, whatever kind of mental or social or whatever setback they went through, some previous trauma. They use that as the activation energy, and then they transcend and include that, and they get themselves into a place that is more positive moving forward. A lot of the things that we value in ourselves as we grow up are the light side of something dark that we're not a massive fan of. So for instance, mine or anybody else's ability to work in solitude, to be able to take risks and go do stuff on their own. Well, that's the other side of being lonely as a kid. Like, I learned that through spending a lot of time alone, but it's one of my superpowers now. You can put me anywhere on the planet with an internet connection on my own, and I will just put my nose to the grindstone and I will get shit done. And I will get shit done until 3 a.m, and I will get up and I will go and I will do it again, and I won't stop. But that's born out of me spending so much time alone as a kid, which I didn't enjoy. And I wish that I didn't have. But if the price that I have to pay for the skills that I admire in myself today were the pains that I had to go through previously, I'd happily pay that price again. I need to prove to the world that they're worthy. I think that that's the, you know, to fly a flag for the psychotic workers amongst us. It's one of the reasons why I think that, you know, if you're a guy who has this inside of you, that has this like grind set ability and the desire, do it. Like, see what happens if you work 16 hours a day for 6 months. Like, do it, because you can do it. I promise you that you can do it. We've all done it. We've all been there. Every single day, without rest, every single day, over and over and over again, obsessing, going to sleep thinking about it, waking up thinking about it, missing meals because you're doing it, missing family. Go and do it for a while. You will prove to yourself that you have the work capacity to be able to do this. And there's some power in that, because you know that when push comes to shove, it's Black Friday and the supply chains have meant that creatine prices have tripled. What are we going to do? We're going to spend the next 2 weeks in the office working out how we're going to fix this problem. Okay, like order pizza, diet's out the window, health's out of the window, sleep's out of the window, text the missus, tell her what's going to happen, and you know you have it in the tank, right? It's very important. It's the difference between running away from a fight because you feel weak and running away from a fight because you're so strong that you don't need to prove anything. So I know I've got that. Just in case I ever did need to, I know that I've got it in the tank. So I think that that's a very important skill to develop. There are certain experiences that you can only have at certain periods of your life. And you could also look at this to do with work. You are now the father of a 1-year-old, nearly. There are things that you could have done 10 years ago for the business, for your physique, for your lifestyle, that you can no longer do now, but without being irresponsible. Okay, so that means that if you want to try and do these things, you have to do them when you can do them. And usually when you can do them is earlier. So this is actually a counterbalance to what we were talking about earlier on in my risk aversion thing. It's like, maybe there are some risks that you should take pretty early. Because as you get older, the risks that you can take, in some ways, you can take more risks with finances, right? Because you just have more money overall. You can't take risks to go and like trek up Everest for like 6 months or, you know, try and beat Nim's Purge's time across the 14 peaks. It's like, I can't do that. I've got a fucking 1-year-old. So yeah, it's interesting. I love this sort of balance between success and desire and trying to find a way to work it all together. Most things that are valuable are difficult to get, but just because something is difficult to get doesn't mean that it's valuable. And this is how non-valuable but difficult things get slipped into your desires. Just because something is hard for you to achieve doesn't mean that it's something that you should desire. Things that are truly valuable are the ones that are aligned with you. What do you want to want? They're the things that you want to want, and that's what you end up going for. Consistency is the most reliable trait that all of the successful people that I've been around have got. Like, no one is successful who isn't consistent. Consistency won't guarantee success, but not being consistent will guarantee that you won't be successful. And electing to do hard things very regularly would probably be a close second. Inbuilt in being curious and interested on what's on the other side of this question that you're asking is the truth. Because what you're asking is to find out what the truth is. I want to know what is on the other side of this question I have.
I don't think there's ever been a time where there's been more opportunity and a lower degree of competition. Material conditions don't actually always determine your internal state. Don't use your external state as an excuse for the way that your internal feelings are. What if a better definition of self-love would be holding yourself to a higher standard than anybody else does?
Yes.
Like, what if you are your own biggest champion?
Yes.
Yeah. And then what if having friends, good friends that care about you, are people who believe in you more than they pity you? So that when things get hard, they don't pat you on the shoulder. Lex won't mind me telling this story. You came to Malice's house where you guys had a party this week, and I sadly missed. Lex came, and I think maybe the Ukraine war had just started out, and he was trying to keep an ear on that, and maybe he's going to go out and speak to Putin or somebody else, and he's trying to build robots, and then he's trying to do his podcast, and he's doing all of these different things. And he was talking about how he was lamenting juggling all of these plates to some of his friends, or maybe even just somebody, and he said a lot of his friends kind of patted him on the shoulder and said, "Oh man, you work so much already, you know, this is like, you should go easier on yourself." He turned and looked at me and he went, "I wish people would stop saying that. I wish that they would say, yeah, this is tough, but you're tougher." And I thought, wow, that's so cool. You know, for someone who seeks in their friends, people who believe in them more than they pity them, is just such a, and you know, the self-love is holding yourself to a higher standard than anybody else does. Like, that is just such a powerful idea, and functionally much more useful as well.